Discovery.
So we talked about observability-driven development. One of the key summaries from our discussion about discovery was discovery's place in the benevolent cycle of suffering-driven development, where you think about observability, and the goal of observability is to decrease suffering by either preventing or catching bad things before they happen, and also, on the other side of things, increasing your knowledge of the good things that have happened. And thinking about this approach as a series of inputs and outputs that become inputs again. We talked about inputs to the discovery process of how you can go about understanding what systems you have, what are they doing. Some of the ideas from the team included using the onboarding process. If you have an onboarding process that is able to convey to people an accurate description of the system, the only way to do that correctly is to have an accurate description of the system. So using that knowledge. Next is physical proximity of members of the team. So a way to share knowledge based on just people being in the same room, in the same office, in the same area. Building data models of your system so you can test against, and so you have an awareness that you can build together as a team. Creating documentation that's only 80% good, and handing it off to people and having the people who are experts and knowledgeable about the system fix the documentation to make it accurate, but not having them be responsible for building the documentation in the first place. And finally, standards for when pushes take place, to enforce requirements inside the organization for, like, do you have this documented? Do you have things up to date? If not, your push request has been denied. And thinking about the inputs of discovery not as an in and of themselves, but as the next phase in building out dashboards, where the goal is to move away from eye candy that's used to show management when they're walking through, or customers when they're walking through, to things that are genuinely useful in dealing with incidents and with processes. And ideally being able to use that to generate reports and getting to the point where you can start to catch trends and start to do prediction. Dashboards are great, they're really cool, but you don't want to have to look at them all the time. So I'm working back towards alerts, and alerts is a way to identify the bad things, boo, and the good things, the KPIs, when they do happen. And all of that you can lead back into feedback through this process, through postmortems, through understanding, to decrease overall suffering. There are a couple of gaps in this process to make this dream a reality. The first is automation and understanding what are the types of information that are available in the core systems that you're using. If you pick up RDS, you know you have RDS, but you don't necessarily know all the types of logs and the information coming out of that. Next is the concept of cross-technology visualization. A lot of the awareness systems that we have are very focused on just an application, or on a cloud, or on an operating system, but being able to unify all of those together. And finally, being able to move into this world where we have orchestration as part of this. Not having to build things manually, not have to design dashboards, do discovery by hand, but being able to leverage existing tools that we've got.